All right, this is the Moz Files. Tonight, what I'd like to talk about is understanding your anger. That's something that I had to become a little bit more familiar with a little bit later in life. I used to be controlled by my anger, uh, and I had to learn from that. One of the things that I was looking at is I was watching a video and they were talking about being an alpha versus being a beta, and one of the things that was brought up was um, having control of your emotions. You need to be more of a logical person, and that kind of sat with me um, because I was wondering, am I in control of my emotions technically if you're angry, and really you're not. A lot of people kind of see anger as um, a good thing. They think it's being security for the family and things like that. But in reality, there's a difference between being somebody who's always looking for a fight versus being somebody who is just protecting and defending. You shouldn't be actively looking to engage in conflict. That's not the logical thing to do. It is an emotional response, but also it's something that's taught as a child. And I didn't realize that there was another thing I was watching. It was a Fresh and Fit thing where they talked about why does it seem that the black male is aggressive? He's the aggressor, things like that. So I had to take a hard look at some things in my life that has made me become more of an aggressor. And one of those things is how you're raised, and you don't realize this until you get older and you get a little wiser. You start to talk to other people. You understand them. You understand yourself more, um, and that's one of the things that I learned. They always say when you're young, and that's well. So that's something that stuck out to me, and I'll give an example. When I was young, I remember one time we were pumping gas, and my mom looks over at us and she goes, "Did you see that man across from us who was pumping gas?" And we looked at our mom. We go, "Yeah, we saw him." And she goes, "Okay, well, what was he wearing?" And I said, "A blue jean jacket." And then she said, "What's he driving?" And I was like, "A blue truck." And then she was like, "Okay, well, what else?" We didn't know anything else. That's all we saw. We saw a blue jean jacket and a blue truck. And then she kind of told us, she was like, "See, that man could have harmed y'all and you wouldn't have knew anything of it. You wouldn't have thought of it because you're not being aware of your surrounding." And as a child, that made sense to me. And this is why I say that you have to be really careful of what you do and what you say around your children. Um, they always make the joke that nobody knows more than a teenager. And that's, it's kind of is true because a teenager's trying to figure things out, and they do feel that they know everything. And so they take these small things and they make them more than they are. So when you teach something like that, you're teaching that child to be scared. You're teaching that child to be vigilant. You're teaching that child that everyone and everything in the world is out to harm them. And that starts to create that vigilant aspect in your life. Um, you you're actually fearful of what's around you. You're scared of what's around you, which is what creates this anger because you feel that you have to defend yourself 24/7, and that creates a lot of stress. That was a big thing. That's a big thing. That's a hard thing to think about. You have to think about when you are vigilant 24/7, when you have people around you and you're always on the lookout. All right, who's trying to hurt me? Who's trying to get me now? You're looking over your shoulders. Who's behind me? What are they doing behind me? And the whole time you're just saying, "I'm just being aware of my surroundings. I'm just trying to know what's going on. What's this? What's that?" But in reality, you're not. You're carrying a lot of stress because you feel a need to be protective, to be in defense mode, to be vigilant 24/7. It's not necessary. And when you learn to deal with these things, when you learn to let some of that go, you do relieve yourself of a lot of stress. Now, you don't want to let it all go. You still want to be aware of what's around you. You still do want some of those aspects of that. Anger can be both good or bad. It just depends on how you use it. In the Bible, it even says there's a time and place to be angry, but you need to understand yourself. You need to understand what's going on to understand that. In the Black community, we tend to have a bad history of a lot of things, which does tend to cause people to be hypervigilant. You are raised around a lot of things that in reality you shouldn't have been raised around, which is why we all fight and strive to be better, so you can give your children things that you were never given as a child, so your child doesn't have to be an adult too soon, so your child's not raising themselves, or your child's not out doing who knows what because of just the environment that they're brought into. So those are things that you typically look at. So you have to get to understand yourself. Why am I angry? Why did that cause me to get set off? You need to question yourself. You cannot have control of your emotions if you don't understand your emotions. So you need to sometimes you need to sit down and think about it and acknowledge it. Did you get angry during that situation? I did. Okay, why did I get angry during that situation? And you need to understand it so you can understand why, and step back from it, really look at it and think logically about it. From a logical standpoint, did I take the best course of action? And the reason that this is important is because you have to remember that anger can change a person's life instantly. You can get angry with someone and throw a punch at them. As they're falling down, they hit their head and they can pass away from that. Now you've got to do jail time for that. And that's huge. That is a huge thing. That's life changing. You're now in jail for the rest of your life. You never know what you could have did with your life. You don't know where you were supposed to be. You don't know who you could have saved and whose life you could have changed. You never know, because one moment of anger. And I've talked to some pastors who have spoken to prisoners, and they talk to these prisoners, and the prisoners talk about how that one moment of anger threw away their life, and it's too late for them, but how much they would love to have their word out so that they can speak to the youth and have the youth understand these things. Now, along with that, when speaking on the youth, children are smarter than we give them credit for. And the reason I say that is because we put out so much we put out so much for these children to have to analyze and understand. Like, for example, walking around telling a child, your daddy ain't shit, your daddy ain't this, your daddy ain't that. That's horrible for that child, because now that child is looking at this grown man and feels a need that he needs to judge them, and he needs to judge them on this negative basis. You have to leave emotions out sometimes. And I know that's difficult, and it sounds, you're like, well, what if the dad ain't around? What if he ain't shit? Or what if the mom ain't around? And what if she ain't shit? Why can't I say the truth? Because that's still a child. A child does not need to be put in that place of an adult. That's why I say that they're growing too fast. They're being a child in an adult's place. The feeling between mother and father need to be feelings between the mother and father. Try your best to not get the child involved, as well as other things. When teaching your children how to be aware, how to be vigilant, you should try and do at your best to teach them without fear. because that puts them at a hypervigilant state that makes them want to, that develops aggressive attitude towards multiple things. There's ways that you can teach them to do that a little bit better rather than kind of it's life or death. You can't teach everything to be life or death. There's small things. You're teaching one thing and this is life or death. That's life or death. And now now in life they're looking at everything as life and death. Therefore, that's going to make them hyper aggressive. So there's just understanding that. At the same time, as an adult, let's move on. We're moving on to as an adult. As an adult, you need to understand these things. You need to be accountable for yourself in these situations. You will never grow if it is always somebody else's fault. So if a man steps on your shoes and it upsets you, oh, he stepped on my shoes. Oh, no, this, that, whatever. Okay, he stepped on your shoes. All right. Are your shoes as valuable as your life? Because now he stepped on your shoes, you're upset with him. Now you want conflict. I got to bring it up to him. I got to threaten him. I got to get respected. You're never going to get respect. That's just the end of that story. He's not going to respect you. He's not going to say, oh, I stepped on your shoes and you came up to me and yelled at me. I respect you. Man, no, that'll never happen. All that's going to happen is conflict from that situation, and you never know what that conflict is going to be. That man can shoot you, or you can do something to him and kill him, and you can either end up dead or you can end up in jail. You would need to just look at certain things. Maybe you shouldn't have been in that environment. Maybe you shouldn't have spent all that money on those shoes to the point where now you feel that it's life or death to protect your shoes. There's a lot of things that go into that. You need to look at yourself and understand yourself and maybe get yourself out of these environments. Hey, I get fired up pretty quickly. Hey, I look for conflict. Therefore, I might need to go to an establishment where I'm not going to have these issues. Go to a more laid back place, go to a less crowded place, go to a bar, shoot pool, things like that. There's a lot of different things. Or maybe you should speak to somebody about controlling your anger. And that's a huge thing. A lot of people have anger issues. And it stems typically from their childhood. A lot of things stem from their childhood. Go get help. And I know when you think of going to go get help, you're thinking of depression, anxiety, you're feeling suicidal. Those are the common things. A lot of people don't think, oh, I get angry, I get upset all the time. And they don't think those are reasons to go get help. But you have to remember that that's not something you can solve yourself. It's for you to find it within yourself, for you to understand yourself, for you to become accountable and say, hey, I do have these issues. But you do also need to get help with these issues. Get consulting. Go see a therapist. You get help with these things, especially. And this is a big one, especially if you are a parent. And that's because that comes from that understanding of anger and compassion with parenting. If you have a child, you can get very frustrated, very angry with children. And that's something that can be solved just by preparing yourselves. That way you don't put this energy onto the children, because like I said earlier, children aren't stupid. They understand what's going on. They understand that energy. They will pick up that energy and they will take from it and they will develop from it. And it'll create another angry person. So go get that help to where you're not spreading anger. You want to spread compassion. You want to be an understanding person. You don't want to walk around angry your whole life, because like I said, it's stressful, and stress is hard on the body. So getting rid of that anger helps you, your heart, your thinking, sleeping better at night. You're not laying in bed thinking, I should have punched the old dude in the face because he disrespected me. Just dumb things. There's so many dumb things that upset people. So it's about getting better with yourself, understanding yourself, learning, and developing better habits to give yourself a better future. You know, I just feel that a lot of people, we need to start letting that anger go. Um, you need to let it go and let it be, and we need to find ways to stop spreading it as much as well through teachings. So that's all for tonight. And like, comment, share, subscribe. Every like, every follow helps. Let me know what you'd like to talk about. I do have some more things that I'd like to talk about, people that I want to bring on, things like that. All right, I'm out.